The other day I tried to play Borderlands, the pre-sequel. I couldn't remember why I didn't like it. And then I started playing it, and then I remembered why I didn't like it. So everything in Borderlands, the first game, the second one, the pre-sequel. Was there a third one? Or is the pre-sequel the third one? Can't remember. They're all the same though. They're designed to be as aggravating as possible. So with the pre-sequel, they figured out how to make just being a character incredibly aggravating. So every character except for Claptrap has to breathe oxygen because you're on a moon that has no atmosphere. And so you're running around and you're running around and your oxygen's constantly going down. And you use your oxygen to sort of do a double jump, not really. It's kind of more like a jetpack thing, a very weak jetpack. Or you can slam down with your butt on enemies, and that uses up your oxygen. So of course, any normal person that doesn't want to be aggravated to hell is going to use Claptrap. But Claptraps has this terrible skill tree where every single skill is just takes something away from somewhere else. So like, oh, if you shoot somebody, oh, now you're gonna be hurt more. You can damage them more, but you're gonna be hurt more. And so like, there's only two skills at the very start that don't completely ruin your day, but they're completely useless. I can't remember what they are. Oh yeah, one is if you shoot an enemy, you might get, if you shoot an enemy and you hit them with a status effect, you might get a chance to get a stack of something that gives you a slight amount of health regen. And all the guns in the game are just terrible. None of them shoot where you aim. I guess I shouldn't say that, because some of them do shoot where you aim, but the bullets fly super slow. So all just the regular weapons with no extra things on them, they just shoot. They do kind of shoot in the direction you aim. Like you can see each of the bullets flying around, so you can see them despite the fact that the gun is straight. Somehow the bullets are going out in every which direction. And then when you start getting special guns or these weird modifications and status things, they get really annoying. So there's this minigun thing. Just by default, all of the bullets go every which way except where you're pointing. And then as it spins up, the recoil goes, it goes like this. Geez, and you can't shoot anything. So not only are the bullets going everywhere where you're not pointing, you can't even point at anything. So you might think, oh, I'll just point over here and the bullets will hit them. Nope, your gun's going everywhere else than where you're trying to point. And then there's explosive guns. They have a very low fire rate. For some reason, this means your bullet flies very slow. If the enemies are really far away and you shoot at them, they'll just sidestep your bullets. If they're really close, the explosion of the bullets hurts you. And if they're medium range, well, you got about 1 second to hit them before they either get out of range and they can sidestep it, or they get too close or the bullets will hurt you. So that's a completely useless weapon. The only weapon I found that actually shoots where you want the bullet to go are the sniper rifles. That game just gives me the runs. The writing is just terrible. It's written by people that think swearing is the funniest thing ever, but like not real swearing. It's like if you say duty. See, I didn't say the naughty word. And that's what the entire game is. It's like, let's take the swear word, instead of saying the swear word, we're going to say something else. That's funny. It's an entire game. And they try to make jokes. Just don't do that. It's just, they're not funny. There was one joke in the second game where there's a big rumble, and then Claptrap says, Like, oh, they might be mining, or maybe your mom just got out of bed. That was funny. Then I realized, oh, that was actually like your mama joke. So they didn't come up with that on their own. They looked it up and said, oh, let's find a good mama joke. Oh, here we go. Your mom's so fat when she gets out of bed, measures on the Richter scale. Let's put that in there. In all of the games, the first enemies you always fight are melee. After the very start, like the tutorial area, you fight melee monsters. And I guess the idea here is that they are easier to hit. They're not, because they jump all over the place. They're bouncing all over the place, and they move super fast. And in all of the games, except maybe the first one, I can barely remember the first one, when they hit you, you get bounced into the air. Now, I guess the idea with that is that if they hit you once and you get bounced in the air, you can't just keep getting hit, or maybe if they surround you, they'll just keep hitting you. But when you're up in the air, you have barely any control. So what actually happens is you get knocked straight up into the air. You're not ready for it, and so you just fall straight back down, and you get knocked up again, and you fall down, and you get knocked up again. And it just keeps happening until you accidentally kill the monsters. Oh, there's a cat on the bed now. And it's in all of them. Like, they know it's bad, and they just kept doing it because they wanted to make the game as aggravating as possible. They said, let's take this game. We know it's terrible. Let's just make it as awful as possible. It's just the worst thing ever. I cannot last in those games. There's just nothing fun about any of the Borderlands games. They're just terrible. You know, I didn't even think about the vehicles. You have the option between a vehicle that shoots machine guns on its turret and one that shoots rockets. Of course I want to do the rockets. And so you do that, and then at least you can just rocket people now with your vehicles. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to get out. And then they decided to make platforming segments for the vehicles because, you know, that's what we wanted. We wanted terrible vehicle controls and terrible platforming with your vehicles. In the pre-sequel, there's one thing where you're going to die about a bajillion times before you figure out how to jump a tiny gap. As you think, oh, I'm just going to boost across it. No. It's like you have to boost. You have to be going the exact correct angle. You have to boost at the exact correct time. And if you're not doing those two things exactly, you're going into the invisible pit, not invisible pit, infinite pit. Cat's leaving. She's angry about Borderlands. I just don't get how they managed to just make the game worse and worse and worse. The first game was bad enough. The second game was worse. The pre-sequel is absolutely terrible. I think they wanted to see just how bad they could make the game, and people would still like it. Is there anything else that sucks about Borderlands? They cell shaded the graphics because they know the game sucks, and they said, oh, well, we're going to distract people by using cell shaded graphics. And they're not going to notice how bad the game is. And it turns out that's true. People do not notice how terrible the game is. They say, oh, even though my guns don't shoot in the direction I fire, and essentially every gun has to be a melee weapon now, it's a fun game. Borderlands sucks.